this quotation comes from here. Youth prisons are an outdated approach to rehabilitation that too often includes physical and sexual abuse, neglect, and isolation. These facilities tear young people away from schools, families, and faith communities where they can find the support and services they need for success. Instead of nurturing responsible citizens, youth prisons risk systematically traumatizing youth and leaving them less able to find employment, have healthy relationships, get an education, and lead productive lives. Welcome to Spaghetti Junction. My name is Gareth.
My name is Bruce.
And we talk about things.
We just
don't know where it's going to go. Welcome back to our discussion on juveniles and the juvenile prisons. And we are continuing our conversation from that because it has gone longer because there's just so much more in this.
Yeah.
I'm really going to be focusing now on exactly what is happening in the prisons.
So the conditions are pretty hectic, and with so many of these poor kids sitting in these prisons, you're gonna find that a lot of the cells, a lot of the prisons are overpopulated.
Absolutely.
And that's also an issue that is worldwide. We hear about overpopulations of a lot of prisons.
Yeah.
You could be having as many as 50 inmates per cell.
Yep.
Polesmore medium A prison.
Yes, our one, yeah.
Yeah, so that's down here, and so that's here in South Africa.
Yep.
42 juveniles in one cell.
And I think, if I'm correct, most of the cells can take up to about 26 people, roughly 24, 26.
Yeah, so there's basically
so that's almost twice the amount.
Twice as many, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do get rare cases where the cells are more spacious.
Yes.
There's maybe only 11 or 12.
Yeah.
So let's see. Sometimes they're not always going to be sleeping on beds. Some of the luckier ones are going to sleep on beds. Other ones they're going to just sleep on the floor on a blanket.
Yes.
And a blanket doesn't protect you from the hardness of the floor.
And especially in this weather as well, it's definitely not humane, I think.
Absolutely. So sometimes prisoners under the age of 18 are sleeping 3 to a bed because they're smaller, so 3 of them can actually sleep on a bed.
Well, I think that 3 probably couldn't, but they have to make it work.
They have to.
I don't think they were like, okay, you're small, you can have one bed. No,
yeah,
I think
no, they don't. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they don't. It's not completely comfortable.
That's it. So, yeah, this is. It just kind of goes. It gets even worse as you sort of read through the stats. In Barberton, you've got a population of 493 prisoners.
Yeah.
In accommodation designed for 450.
Yep.
199 of these prisoners were adult males awaiting trial.
There we go.
Yeah. And then being held in cramped airless cells without beds. Of 394 sentenced prisoners, 39 were on the records were children. So there you've got where children are being held with adults.
Yes.
Which is constitutionally not,
it's not
against their rights.
Yes, exactly.
So it just gets a little bit.
Now there's an actual law that should be put in place about cell conditions. Okay, for here, which is the South African Constitution section, it says everyone who is detained, including every sentenced prisoner, has the right to conditions of detention that are consistent with human dignity, including at least the provision at state expense of adequate accommodation. And the UN says juveniles deprived of their liberty have the right to facilities and services that meet all the requirements of health and human dignity. And obviously from the overcrowding as just one thing, that's obviously completely not happening.
Yeah.
And the conditions of the cells vary from prison to prison. Some are clean. the majority, from what I read through it, are quite scruffy.
Yeah.
For example, at one of the places, at Leocop, the cell walls are drab, unpainted, and some of the cells are fairly dark. There's an actual law, and I need to read back into what it was, but there's a law that actually says how much light must come into a cell,
Yes.
to make it
Sort of reasonably livable.
exactly. At the Johannesburg Medium A juvenile prison, it's also known as, well, the Johannesburg prison is known as Sun City.
Yes.
And one of the reasons it's called Sun City is that you can get almost what you want
Inside
for a price
Yeah.
in Sun City, kind of thing. And it's not because it's a fantastic getaway,
No.
like the real Sun City that we have in this country. In the cell for unsentenced children, a lot of these places, and speaks about here the Johannesburg Medium A prison, is dark with no outward facing windows. On one side it overlooks sewage plants, pipes, and on the other a corridor, and the lights are on all day. One of the things that happens, and it happens not just juveniles, but where you wake up in the morning, the lights go on at 5:30ish.
Yeah.
Which then, everybody wakes up. They must make sure that everything is swept, is clean, the beds are tidy. Then it's roughly about 7 o'clock is breakfast. Then there is a portion of time where you can be outside, just to walk around and so forth.
Yeah.
Depending on the actual size of the prison and the outside center. Then you go back inside your cell. Thank you very much. Get locked in there. Then you have lunch, 1 o'clock roughly, and then what happens? You have to make sure that you're keeping a portion of your lunch saved for supper, because there is no supper.
Sure.
They give you a large dish, but although there's not a huge amount, but they will give you things like extra bread, for example.
Right.
And you have to make sure that you don't eat it all at once, because from early afternoon until the next morning,
You won't eat again.
you are locked up.
Sure.
You go back inside. That is definitely in the awaiting trial section.
Right.
Things are different, obviously, when you get into, once you have been sentenced, there's a bit more freedom. But a lot of the times you spend way more time in the cell
Yeah.
than actually outside.
Okay.
And I think when that's happening, especially if you're a youngster, that mentally, I don't think we've even spoken about the mental impact.
No, I can't.
If that's what you're used to, that's not what you're used to, and you're spending more time locked up, and there's not as much light
Yes.
as there should be. Not to
Yes.
say that every place is like that,
Yeah.
but a portion of there are like that when there's not as much light as humanely should be there. Yes, people have done crimes, but they're still humans.
Yeah.
They still should be treated as, and that's, I guess, some will say, no, they've done, like really bad stuff. They've stolen this, they've hurt this person, maybe they've killed somebody.
Yeah.
For sure, they should be in there, but there is still, everyone is still a human.
Yes.
No matter what
There
they've done.
there are
I know
particular rights that are
there are
afforded to-
still human rights,
Yeah.
whatever they've done. And a lot of the times, they are not exactly what they should be.
No. I got some interesting information just about how prisoners are supposed to be separated
Yes.
with regards to offences and stuff like that.
Yep.
And it says just despite the obvious disadvantages of keeping serious offenders in cells with relatively minor offenders, the visits produced very little evidence of separation by offences. So authorities would admit that the prisons are so full that it's impossible to separate prisoners according to their types of crimes committed.
Wow.
And that's scary.
hectic.
So for example, researchers were told that a prisoner serving a sentence of 34 years might be placed in a cell along with another serving only 12 months. And can you imagine? That interaction and what that minor offender might learn? Knowledge, skills, all that kind of thing, from someone who's serving 34 years in prison.
Yeah, they will, and it's very much a thing where you have to, learn fast.
Yeah.
Either you learn, or you're gonna, I wouldn't say die, but excuse me. But it is either you fit in, or you're gonna stand out, and and it's like that story which I mentioned, about that girl who stole 170 rands worth of stuff.
Yeah.
She was put in a cell with a lady who's 35 and I don't know what this 35-year-old did. I can guarantee you it's way more than stealing 170 rand.
Yeah.
And as you say, it's what you are brought into.
Yeah.
If you're going to, what you learn in that environment, because either you do something or it's just going to end up horrible for you.
That's it. I mean, some of the inmates have been awaiting placement for over 9 months to a year.
Oh, that's
just waiting to be placed.
Yes,
you can sit there for a year.
Yeah. I mean, I knew somebody whose dad was in prison awaiting trial. I can't remember the exact number, but we're looking about over 5 years. No, I think it was about 8 years. Like, literally was awaiting trial. He wasn't even sentenced. He was just waiting to get heard in a court. And he doesn't... That just shows how completely messed our system is. And it's not just us. I'm sure it's not
like
just our country.
But that's a reality. That's a harsh slap in the face.
And a lot of the times, the awaiting trial, when they are sentenced, they do not get back that time that they were awaiting trial. So you might have wasted 9 months, a year.
So that doesn't get taken off your sentence?
From what I understand, the majority of times that happens, no, it doesn't.
My word. So like time served, basically.
Start from when you are... from when your sentence gets handed down to you.
That is
boom, then it starts.
Jeez, that's scary.
Because people are we can just throw them away. Because, if it doesn't affect me, well, it just basically says that youngsters, if they do anything from 170 rand, to me, that comes across like they don't give a shit about them. Our judicial system is saying you stole 170 rands worth of stuff, and because you can't afford a bail of 500, we're going to take you away from your family and chuck you in with someone older, and hope that you will come out as a better person. Bullshit.
That's not going to happen.
No, that's fucked up.
That's not going to happen. And I mean, what's very, like, I do know that. In a lot of prisons, I think in the States, there are your rehabilitation programs where you can educate yourself, you can take classes, you can learn things, earn degrees.
If the children, they would earn their schooling. And I know that in South Africa, though, there are actually prisons who have actually started a schooling system.
Right.
When I was in Kenya, we were working with an NGO.
Right.
And I was in Mombasa for a while, which is it's so hot. It's bad. Like I would walk from the hostel I was at,
Right.
and would walk up. It was possibly maybe 2 k's of walking, maybe 3. And by the time I reached them, my work shirt was just saturated. It was so hot.
Because it's not just heat, it's humidity as
It's
well.
Mombasa, dude. It's hectic.
Yeah.
Beautiful place, but it's humid
Yeah.
as heck. Anyways, that was the side thing. Yeah. So I got to see what has been mentioned as one of the one of the best examples of how to actually run a juvenile system. How to run a juvenile prison, basically.
Really, hey?
And a lot of what they did, for example, all the vegetables they ate there, they had planted.
Right.
They had harvested. There were chickens there.
Right.
And their eggs obviously went back into the system. They had a cow. I think that they had a cow or two there, a goat, I think, as well. Milk and so forth.
Yeah.
They had skill training, from woodworking to metalwork to mechanics, and they were not locked down.
Right.
They basically had the freedom to move every single day.
Okay.
And then they would, once the day was done, they would then go back inside, but they were never like locked down.
Yeah.
And they were allowed to move freely.
Sure.
And I don't know the numbers or the stats from that, but just going on that to what we are talking about now, it's completely different. It's 180 degrees.
Yeah.
So it can be done.
Yeah. So they really are making an effort to get these kids to a point where, when they do come out, they can be functional members of society.
Exactly.
And that with skills, with
skill sets.
with okay.
Yeah, I mean, even the basics of learning how to farm.
Yes.
You've already learned that on this. So yes, and every person there has to do at least one trade.
Right.
And has to do schoolwork as well.
Yes. Sure.
So that just brought to mind, actually, it can be done.
Yeah.
It's not that we don't have the means.
No.
And maybe Kenya has found that and has the ways and means to do it, but it's very possible.
Yeah.
And that's what is known as I don't know if it's known as a third world or second world. I don't think it's known as a first world. My point being, you don't have to be a first world country. You don't have to be America to make it work.
Look at South Africa. I mean, South Africa's arguably maybe more first world than Kenya.
Arguably, yes.
But look at what Kenya's doing.
Underline arguably, yeah.
Well, look at what's. I think it's a mindset and people willing to just make the effort. And also funneling the necessary finances into something like that.
Yeah.
And someone actually in government signing off on this, saying, yes, I think that's a good decision. And we're going to sign off on that. And we're going to assign finances to this. And we're going to make sure that those finances actually get used in the right way.
Yeah. And unfortunately, with our track record in government, like I think over the last few months, there have been people getting caught out in government that have been using public taxpayers' money and has been embezzling it.
Yeah.
It's a constant issue.
Yeah.
And the problem is that because the money doesn't get to our juveniles, that should be, as you say, that getting them to the point where they can leave and be people back in a social...
Yeah, just socialized in a...
Socialized, exactly.
Yeah.
I believe that if there were more like what they should be. For example, what they've done in Kenya,
Yeah.
I think we'll have less people. I'm going back, and I was reading that environment will obviously it'll bring down the reoffenders,
Definitely.
because the reoffenders percentage, and I don't know what it is for this year, for like 2020, but you're looking at approximately 60 to 65, so 60 to 70% reoffend.
It's a huge amount.
And it just shows that our system, if it was done properly,
Yeah.
not to make money from from the investing, upgrading. I mean, sorry, money that is meant to be invested to upgrade.
Yeah.
If they actually saw the juveniles as people that really, really, really need our country's assistance
Yes.
to become better people, and to also go and look and say, that girl has been there for I don't know how long. What was her problem? Oh, she stole 170 rand. Why is she in prison?
Yeah. The punishments not that, like, with the punishments not fitting the crimes is also just
No.
some of these punishments are just way too extreme for that type of crime. Yes, punish the crime.
Yes.
That's not what we're saying.
But how do you
But
punish?
there's got to be levels.
Oh, absolutely, dude.
There's
Um,
and understanding. Yes, there's consequences to what you do, but not sitting in prison because of and not being 400 kilometers away from anyone who can actually help you.
Yeah. They do things, for example, so what you watch on TV is not always what a prison looks like.
No.
There's a very good documentary series on Netflix where a guy from the UK who was in prison for 8 or 9 years on something that he didn't do,
Yeah.
until finally it was proved that he didn't do it.
Wow.
He goes all around the world to go into various prisons.
That's world's toughest prisons. Is that the series?
No, it's with his name. I'll have to find it. But
Oh, okay.
but yeah, I mean, it's yeah, it is very, very much that kind of thing, where he will go in, as an inmate,
Right.
to really experience what happens
Oh,
behind
so he actually gets processed as an inmate.
everything.
Wow.
And why I'm bringing that up is that part of it is true, where in some prisons you have to strip right down.
Yes.
Now the problem in juvenile, and this is one of the things that happens,
Yeah.
if is that a juvenile, for whatever reason, now they have to strip down within the view of adults.
Yeah.
And the problematic thing, which has come a few times, is if there's a child who has been sexually assaulted when he was younger, is now stripping down in front of older men,
Yeah.
or a girl to a woman.
Yes.
It brings back all that emotional baggage, all
Yes,
that emotional
absolutely.
scars. So even before getting inside the prison, they're already fucked in the brain.
That's crazy. Oh my word.
It's a hard system. This thing, a little bit from the US, is that some teens, are kept behind bars because they are a danger. Sorry. Some teenagers are kept behind bars not because they are a danger to society, but because they cannot afford court fees. Others experience appalling treatment. So it says, just last month, whatever it was, staff in one place allegedly stood idly by as a 16-year-old had a seizure and died in custody. And far too often, juvenile offenders are housed in facilities which are under federal investigation for abuse.
Yes.
And then what was then brought into this as well. This quotation comes from here. Youth prisons are an outdated approach to rehabilitation that too often includes physical and sexual abuse, neglect, and isolation. These facilities tear young people away from schools, families, and faith communities where they can find the support and services they need for success. Instead of nurturing responsible citizens, youth prisons risk systematically traumatizing youth and leaving them less able to find employment, have healthy relationships, get an education, and lead productive lives.
Damn, that is a powerful statement. Jeepers. Wow.
But I just think, yeah, I mean, and then we haven't even gone into the cost of what one person in prison is costing per year.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother story. And this is obviously, in dollars. But what has been mentioned, in one area, it costs $142,000 per year to incarcerate just one young person. Meanwhile, they have a thing called the Youth Advocate Programs, which offer services in homes and community settings. It costs significantly less, about $27,000 a year, and it allows youth to stay arrest-free throughout their participation. So it's just so much money.
Yeah.
So that's the other side of things. Like, I just feel that a lot of money that is spent in prisons on juveniles that shouldn't even be there should be used in a plan that can deal with youngsters before they offend. And I feel that's not happening. There's crime and everything happening. So the prisons are waiting. Hey, we are going to be getting in youngsters. Why cannot there be something that actually is brought into areas, especially where they, are known to be more crime, that actually address and have events talking to youngsters?
Yeah.
So they do not get to a point where they end up in prison. And I feel that's part of our problem, part of the world's problem.
Yeah,
I don't know the whole world, but I just feel generally there should be so much more time and finances given to programs that will help youngsters not get to that point.
Yeah. But it's not being done.
I just feel that's a huge problem that's not being addressed.
Yeah.
And so, do you want to say something?
No. Sorry, you're speaking about this so well.
Well, just wave at me. And,
I'm struggling to. I'm struggling to even think of relevant points to make. I really am. I think there's something I was thinking about.
Please.
And I knew that you were going to have a lot to say about this. Because you and I have known each other for a long time.
Correct.
And you've always had a passion for working with kids.
Yeah.
In youth programs at church. And you've always been the kind of guy that, I don't know, you naturally just are able just to take a group of kids and take leadership and go, cool, kids, this is what we're going to do. And it's going to be awesome. And I was never able to do that. I know, like, I got involved in holiday clubs and stuff like that. But I was never... I kind of kept the kids more at like arm's length. Because
little scoundrels.
Yeah, and you were. I was quite in awe of like how Gareth just very easily.
It's just a natural thing.
Yes, exactly. And some people are suited to that, other people not. And so I knew from the outset like you were gonna be able to talk about this a hell of a lot. And that because it's ever since I've known you, it's been a passion for you.
Absolutely.
As a youth worker and stuff.
Absolutely.
Like that. So
yeah,
very cool.
So this is now more based now US stuff, but I think it can be brought across to anywhere. Mm-hmm. So they mentioned this juveniles who have been sentenced to youth. So they have detention centers, okay, and so it says that juveniles who have been sentenced to youth detention are sent to a young offenders institution. So I think how they do it, is there like a level before you get like in the juvie prison. So the maximum sentence for juveniles aged 16 or 17 is 2 years.
Right.
For juveniles aged 12 to 15, the maximum is 1 year. This is now in the States.
Right.
And this is when this is now they're like a big thing is like, when should you try a juvenile as an adult?
Right. Yes.
And so like, what level of crime should you say, okay, hold on, this needs to be tried tried as an adult? And unfortunately, the system doesn't do what the left hand is, what the right hand is doing.
Right.
So a lot of the times there are juveniles who be tried as adults, but actually their crime, they can be tried as a juvenile
because the crime was not as serious.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. That. So so there's a lot of problems with that. Where they are put into an environment where they shouldn't be.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I can. Yeah, that's that gray area we talked about as well. Where do you draw that line of like, okay, but then what if a child or a juvenile offender, should we say, has committed a crime that is that serious? What if a juvenile offender under the age of 18 kills someone?
I would not. I'm obviously not a judge or a lawyer, or as we are both not.
No.
But from what I've been reading, if the crime is heinous, is a word that's used, they can be tried as an adult.
Where there's maybe proof that this person knew exactly what they were doing, even though.
Yes, and it's something that a younger person. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I never say sorry. You're right. That has stolen 170 rand compared to someone who murdered his mum or dad.
Yeah. And knew exactly what they were doing.
They are meant to be in prisons a social worker, if not more.
Right.
Where they relevant, where they spend time with the juvenile.
Right. Yes.
And then they actually
sort of assess how.
Thank you. That's what I'm looking for.
Assess
where the juvenile is. What were they doing? What were they feeling? And they can work out if that child should still be treated as a juvenile. Because a lot of the times, I think that's where the difficult thing is like, how far must a juvenile go before they can be tried as an adult? And I think that's where the right hand doesn't meet with the left hand, and sometimes juveniles go into an adult system where they shouldn't be.
All right.
And then you get put into, and then you begin to meet older people, and
it just perpetuates the cycle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a word of the day, people. Perpetuate.
Perpetuate.
Yeah. Perpetuate, yes. So dude, I mean, it's just I just wanted to bring in a thing where how are the children cared for?
Right.
How are the juveniles cared for?
Cool.
And again, I'll go to what the SA Constitution says and what the UN says. And I always, so what the South African Constitution says is every child has the right to appropriate alternative care when removed from the family environment, basic nutrition, shelter, basic health care services, and social services. So they have to basically be treated as a human being.
Yes.
They have to have health care. They have to have social services. And some places do not have a social worker, or they only have one who is overworked to a point.
Yeah.
Which, for example, makes me I'm thinking about if you do not have a lawyer, then you can get what is called here legal aid.
Right.
Who
Yeah.
can then go to court and fight for you, so
Yes.
to speak, or at least to put down your. But they are so overworked
Yeah.
and underpaid
Right.
that they have a book of of offenders that it gets to a point where a majority of them, for example, can be awaiting trial for 8 months,
Yeah.
a year, 2 years, 5 years, because
This poor advocate can't get to them.
yes,
This is just
and they don't have the nicety of someone else who comes from a better background,
yeah.
who can afford a lawyer or
Yeah.
can find a lawyer who will only focus on them.
Yeah.
And the majority of people in prison don't have that luxury.
That's it.
Everyone who is detained, including every sentenced prisoner, has the right to conditions of detention that are consistent with human dignity. The UN says, to the extent possible, juveniles should have the right to use their own clothing. Detention facilities should ensure that each juvenile has personal clothing suitable for the climate and adequate to ensure good health, which should in no manner be degrading or humiliating. I read that some youngsters, come to prison with what they have,
Yeah.
and some have shoes which are broken. Some have like one T-shirt which has holes in. Some don't have shoes on their feet.
Yeah.
So you're coming into a center when that's all you have, and a lot of the times they have to wear what they have or what they brought in.
Yes.
So what I'm trying to say as we finish is that it's all good and proper to have, what the SA Constitution says,
Yes.
or the UN Constitution says, the UN rules. But are there people spread out across the world that go to every prison and actually check is this happening? So it's fantastic to have these rulings.
Yes. But if in reality it's not being, it's not actually being dealt with, and the answer to your question is obviously no. There aren't people going and inspecting, or there might be, and there might just be too few. Where the people are going to inspect prisons and go,
Yes.
this is not on, change this, or they go, or is there corruption happening as well? Like, yeah, we'll go into the prison and it's not lacquer, but we'll just don't say anything.
Exactly.
Here's a little something.
I
something,
think money plays a big part of it.
and
I'll just finish off with one last thing. You have everything?
I'm good, dude. You've
Okay.
done brilliantly.
I think we've done all right.
Yeah.
A last thing, speaking about money and so forth.
Yes.
If an inmate wants something brought in.
Yes.
So this is probably more towards the adults and so forth.
Right.
But you can slip one of the wardens an amount of money,
Yes.
who will then turn a blind eye
Yes.
when something comes in from their family member or from
Yeah.
someone who they know. So money definitely plays a part. Or a mother or father has sent money to a certain bank, and the inmate has a bank card.
Mm-hmm.
Will then give the bank card to the warden,
Yes.
who will draw out the money and minus a percentage of
Yes.
that goes into his pockets,
Sure.
because money obviously is power
Yeah.
in prison.
Yeah.
So absolutely, money, and that just shows if. And again, it's not every warden, it's not every jail. It's
No.
just statistics. What I'm aware of and
Yes.
understanding
Yes.
is that if you are a youngster who comes from a background that is super poor.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in general, poor.
Yeah.
And they haven't got the means to do anything like that. How else will you survive? What will you do?
Yeah.
What will you do with somebody?
Yeah.
And the problem of also, there's many things that happen in prisons, and there's
Yes.
many things that happen in juvenile prisons. And one of the issues is sexual assault.
Yes.
So if you go into this place, stolen 170 rands worth of food,
Yeah.
and you experience sexual assault,
Yeah.
you come out a completely different person.
Yeah. Definitely.
Totally messed. Not messed, but a portion of you has been,
It's been destroyed.
it's gone.
Yeah.
And for 170 rand. And not saying that everybody who goes in there are good people. No, everyone does stuff.
Yeah.
My point being is that our system needs to be looked at, I think, for the majority of the world, definitely here.
Yeah.
That there are better ways of dealing with young people who have done crime.
Definitely.
Because a person who does crime at the age of 13 compared to someone who's the age of 30, their mindset is completely different.
Yeah.
Their mentality is different.
Yeah.
So you should be treating them completely different to someone who's 30 and has done a similar crime.
That's it.
Both are
Absolutely.
crimes, but we need to be looking after our young people. If it's outside from prison, or even if they go into prison, we
Yeah.
still have the job to look after our young people.
Yeah.
And to me, that's not being done properly.
And the problem is, it's not like the money isn't available.
Yeah.
There is lots of
Yes.
money available.
Yeah.
But it's not being funneled into these things.
No, and that's the problematic thing, which then brings out youngsters back into the world who will reoffend.
And probably one of the biggest causes of South Africa's high crime rate. What did you say? 60% reoffend.
Yeah.
And it's just a vicious circle. It just keeps going.
Exactly. And it's just my heart that we actually look after, even though that they've, even whether here with us or in prison,
Yeah.
we still have a right. We still should be taking care of them and actually trying to ensure that they aren't there for 170 rands worth of stuff.
Yeah.
And if they are there for a reason, that they are treated well, that they go through social services.
Yes.
They get time with their family.
Yes.
They don't stay with somebody who's 2-3 times their age.
Yeah.
They get looked after properly, humanely, not as a throwable away person because they're young.
Yes.
So that's the challenge that I don't know if anyone's going to take up. But in the real world, in a lovely world, that should be happening. So I'm actually hoping that it will still happen.
Yeah.
And I guess the question is, if we meet somebody who has stolen something, who has done something against us or somebody else who's a youngster, how do we address them, and how can we sway the powers that be? I don't know.
Yeah.
So there are centers. I just want to end with this. There are centers who are doing it really well.
Yes.
That we haven't really touched on.
No.
Because there's just so much negativity.
Yeah.
So there are definitely centers that are doing it well. But unfortunately, the larger percentage needs
always going to be that bigger.
Needs to kick up their ass to sort out our youngsters. Yeah.
Wow.
That was not meant to be for 2 episodes. We were both like, it's going to be one, and it's over. Because we have enough for one, and so I wasn't planning to go for 2.
Wasn't.
So you have received a bonus episode midweek. Thank you for listening, people. As we continue to do topics that hopefully will bring more awareness and could help other people that maybe you weren't aware of how to do that. Or maybe you can join. I know, like in some churches, for example, there are groups that go into prisons.
Prison ministries, correct? Yes.
Prison ministries, and and I'm sure it's not just in churches, but a challenge is to find a group like that. Be it in church or be it in your community. If it's not, maybe think of trying something like that.
Yeah.
Because the more people that can actually just spend time with them from the outside world and relate to them and make them feel wanted,
Yes.
make them feel that they are more than just, more than just a prison number.
Yes.
I believe that will also impact the positivity of children and will bring down something simple like that. I believe will bring down the number of
Yes,
of
absolutely.
of reoffenders, because they're experiencing what they probably don't get in there, which is love, just
Yes.
old-fashioned love. All you
Yes.
have to do there is just to go there, smile, sit with them, just listen
Just
to them.
listen, correct.
All you got to do.
Yes.
You don't have to have a degree. You don't have to. Well, as children, I don't know how to deal with children. You just got to sit there.
Yeah.
Think about if that was your child. How would you react with them?
Yeah.
Just be with them.
Yeah.
There are options out there, and hopefully governments will sort things, and they just need to be loved.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Guys, this has been the Spaghetti Junction podcast. My name is Bruce.
And my name is Gareth.
Please like, comment, subscribe, share, do all those good things on the YouTubes.
Yes.
And we'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Ciao, bye.
Bye-bye.